You have over 6 properties and you think you know everything about a DSCR loan. But there are things out there that each of the DSCR lenders do differently, and they're called overlays. And in this week's podcast, we'll talk about those. So let's get to it, guys. Ryan Dement, Chasing Financial Freedom podcast. Hope you guys are having a great day. This seems to be a resonating theme that I'm coming across in my travels, that people think they know everything about a DSCR and there's nothing else that can be done, whether you're a loan officer, a broker, or even a direct lender. There are these items that are called overlays, and these overlays are requirements that each lender has for their type of DSCR loan. Now, what is an overlay? An overlay is an additional requirement that the lender will want you to achieve or satisfy. So let me give you an example. If you're going to one lender, they are not a true non-QM, non-qualified mortgage lender. They use conventional overlays, which they will look for housing history. They're going to want to see the last 2 years of your housing history. Any real estate that you actually own, they're going to want to see your most updated mortgage statement to make sure that it's current. If you're renting, they're going to want a letter of rent, or they're going to want to actually have a VOR, a verification of rent. Now, if you go to a traditional non-QM DSCR lender, that's all they do. They do DSCR, fix and flip. They do ground up construction. They do bridge loans. Those lenders have total different requirements. They do not follow Fannie Freddie guidelines, conventional loans. They're not going to care about your current residence. They're not going to care about your 2 years worth of living history and where you've lived at. They are not going to care about your verification of rent. I should take that back. Some will. If you're a first-time investor and a first-time home buyer, there are several lenders that will actually want to see a verification of rent. This has happened to me half a dozen times, and most often, these individuals that are doing these deals are first-time investors, and they also live at home. So they're either living rent-free or they're actually living a very reduced amount of rent. So those are very easy to satisfy. The other item there's 3 that we're going to go through. The other item that I want to go through is this: reserves. Some lenders, let's define what a reserve is. Reserves are this. It's your full PITI if you're getting a full principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment, or if you're just doing interest only, then it would be an interest only payment. The lender wants to see, God forbid, if the property isn't rented and it goes several months without being rented, can you afford to make the mortgage payment so you don't default? They want to see anywhere between 3 and 6 months of those payments in your bank. Now you're probably asking, what happens to that money? That money just needs to be shown in your bank account. It does not get wired to title to close. It's just cash that you have to show in the bank. Once you do that, wipe your hands, you're done. You can move the money wherever you want to go. This came up the other day in one of the Facebook groups I'm in. I posted an educational post about reserves and how using alternative reserve sources are available: 401k, self-directed IRA, pension fund, anything that's outside of the ordinary. The funny result of this was I had 2 or 3 guys tell me, oh yeah, we know that already. You'd be amazed how many people don't know that you can actually use those funds for reserves. The question that I posed to these individuals in this group was this: did you have that knowledge when you got your first DSCR deal? And of course, they didn't respond. And I shouldn't have pushed back at that, but I did. It boils down to this. I'm not looking to sell. I'm looking to educate. The best place to educate, of course, is through marketing. And when I put a post out there about a topic that I see firsthand is a struggle, I'm going to share it. Last 2 years, I've closed nearly 90 DSCR loans. Is it a lot? I don't know. That's for you to judge. Me, it's decent. We'll continue to build. We'll continue to strive. We'll continue to close more deals. But how are you supposed to grow? How are you supposed to learn more about the industry if you don't share? And that's the only way I know how to do this is educate and share. Share it even more because it will help others down the road. That's the ultimate goal, is to share as much information as I can and layer it out to 6, 7, 8 different layers of people so they understand exactly what's going on with DSCR loans. Because there are times where people are like, I didn't know I was being hit with a prepayment penalty. I didn't know that I needed to have 6 months reserves. Those are conversations that your broker lender should have had. And oh, by the way, when you go to a local bank, it's a totally different setup than when you go to a DSCR loan. When individuals tell me I can go to a local bank and get a DSCR loan, no, you can't. You can get a conventional loan that's being lent on a investment property based upon your personal income, your credit score, your debt to income ratio, your income, your last 2 years of tax returns, your W-2s, your bank statements. All those things are not required for a true DSCR loan, a non-QM. Lastly, guys, is this. When I compare local banks and what they do for loans when it comes to investment properties compared to DSCR lenders, 2 different worlds, 2 different paths, literally 2 different paths. And I want to make it very clear on this. A portfolio loan is not a DSCR loan. Now, they might be underwritten the same way, but they're 2 separate types of loans. A portfolio loan encompasses multiple properties that are cross-collateralized in a actual loan. A DSCR loan is one single property, whether it be a single family residence, a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. Period. There's no cross-collateralization. When you're in a portfolio blanket loan, you have a lot more restrictions when it comes to exiting these. And I'll give you 2 of them. One, a prepayment penalty, just like you have on a DSCR. There are prepayment penalties, and I'm going to get back to that. The prepayment penalty on the actual portfolio/blanket loan is going to be anywhere between 10 and 20% of the outstanding balance. So let me give you an example. You've got 5 properties, $1 million. You've got one of your properties that you're selling out of this portfolio loan that is got an outstanding balance of $100,000, using round numbers. Your prepayment penalty on this deal is 10%. You're paying $10,000 for you to break that loan up because the lender has to redraw the documents up and re-record the deed and the mortgage. That prepayment penalty lasts the life of the loan, 30 years. So if you do not refinance or pay all the properties off at the same time, every single time you break up your portfolio loan with 1 property or 2 properties or whatever it is, and not the whole cake, you're going to be charged a prepayment fee. I use 10% as the lowest denominator. Most of these blanket portfolio loans are between 15 and 20% because they don't want to do the work. So if you're not going to keep a property for 30 years or refinance them all at the same time or sell them all at the same time, whether you go to your local bank or you go to a DSCR lender, let me break the bad news to you. You're still getting the prepayment penalty. It will not go away. So you can go to your local bank, get a great rate, but guess what? That great rate doesn't mean squadoosh if you actually have to pay 10 to 20% in a prepayment penalty when you find that you're going to sell several of your properties because someone's offered you a number that you can't resist. Guess what? They're not going to waive it. Lastly, we're still on the prepayment penalty, but we're on this side of the equation with the DSCR loans. If you're running through a local bank over here, your local bank is going to disclose that because they're using conventional loan criteria. That's an overlay. On this side, where you're using a traditional non-QM lender for your DSCR, they are not. They don't have to disclose it. All the lenders I work with, they do. And I always make sure I double up and let people know that there's either a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year prepayment penalty. So putting that out front and saying that it always happens is not true because there's different disclosure requirements on the type of loan and lender that they are. Now, if you go to a wholesale lender like UWM, they actually will not put a prepayment penalty unless your loan meets the state threshold, and that is based upon conventional guidelines. So majority of the loans that I do in Ohio and Kentucky and Indiana don't qualify. So I don't put a prepayment penalty on there, but guess what? The rate is higher, sometimes substantially higher. But that's a choice that the buyer/borrower, you have to make a decision. Do you want a higher rate or do you want a lower rate? That's up to you. How long are you going to hold the property? If you're going to hold the property 5+ years, take the prepayment penalty. Get the lower rate, save yourself some money. You're not in the business of giving away free cash. You're in the business of making money. Lower rate generates more cash for you. Higher rate puts a squeeze on your actual capital. Very end here, guys, is this. Prepayment penalty in both channels, it's disclosed differently, and you have to have knowledge on what type of lender you're working with to know if they are going to disclose over here at a local bank or they're not going to disclose over here at an actual non-QM lender. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Please subscribe, share, have a good one. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you guys on the other side.